I've wanted to do a video on tokenism for a while now. When I talk about tokenism, I'm not talking about the conservative idea of affirmative action as a form of malignant tokenism. When I talk about tokenism, I am specifically speaking to the people who are hired and bankrolled to side with the oppressing party against their own people. This is people like Herman Cain and Ben Carson, who are paid by the conservative media complex to, I think I would throw Alveda King in there. If you remember, Alveda King was a big thing within the Tea Party, and she's some kind of a great niece of Martin Luther King, so she was their great civil rights emissary to shame black people and parrot conservative talking points about black sloth and inherent black criminality, and parrot those talking points about pull up your pants. Bill Cosby thing with the pull up the pants. This idea that not only are you going to get scolded, it's a big, the black people get your shit together talking point is a big talking point. Conservatives are always big on that Horatio Alger shit. For every disenfranchised group that they, fuck over, white people are always on some bootstrap shit. Pull up your bootstraps, excuse me. Martin Luther King actually made a statement about that Horatio Alger talking point about the cruelty. I'm going to paraphrase. The cruelty of advocating that someone pull themselves up by bootstraps when they don't have any boots was basically what he said in regards to this idea that people with no franchise whatsoever within a system could somehow succeed within a meritocracy that a meritocracy that is in fact a sort of a de facto apartheid state, particularly when Martin Luther King was alive. We had apartheid by law. We had segregation in the South. We had black and white people not only separated, but certainly not equal. So, tokens. We discussed Alveda King, who, talks about how Martin Luther King would have been a Tea Partier. You get Ben Carson, who talks about, I'm not sure what Ben Carson talks about. He's out there, man. You can at least give Herman Cain that he wasn't too sharp on the ball, but he had something to say. He had like a tax plan and all this stuff. When you ask Ben Carson stuff, he's completely like aphorisms. Everything he has to say is some sort of a weird platitude or some kind of a paranoid delusion. So Herman Cain gets points from me on substance, but unfortunately, he's also a token. He's another. He's a black person hired by white men to speak against black people, and Clarence Thomas, so on and so forth. So that it's not just black men castigating. It's not just Sean Hannity castigating the black community to get their shit together. It's not just Bill O'Reilly telling the black community to get their shit together. Look, we got a black guy, and even the black people agree that you guys don't have your shit together, blah, blah, blah. The civil rights movement needs to shut up. Donald Trump is angling two very specific black tokens. The first one, he's already nominated for housing and urban development, to be the chief of housing and urban development, excuse me. That's Ben Carson, who is woefully underqualified for that position. He's not particularly qualified for the bureaucratic part of being Surgeon General, but at the very least, he has a medical background. I mean, there would be some legitimacy to putting Ben Carson into a bureaucratic position at the Surgeon General's office. But to install him into an agency where HUD is very closely associated with urban housing, even though HUD oversees a lot more than urban housing. It's been conflated in the conservative media with black ghettos. So that's sort of the dog whistle to putting Ben Carson in there, is that he's going to get in there and he's going to whip those black projects into shape. That's the coded message being put out by hiring Ben Carson. So there have always been the house slave versus the field slave idea. So there have always been, you had Phyllis Schlafly during her generation, who was like a precursor to Ann Coulter, who was sort of an anti-feminist woman, a woman who was against gender equality, basically a woman who held water for the existing order of male privilege of her time. And after Ann Coulter has come the most recent anti-woman woman within the conservative media complex. It's not coincidental that these women have a lot in common with pageant queens. They seem like someone took that world peace speech that pageant queens are supposed to give, like the one political question they give pageant queens, where they talk about what they want for the future of the world and all that stuff. Tomi Lahren is so beauty queen when she talks that I actually mistook her for a different Miss Teen USA that made some kind of conservative word vomit come out during her speech. I think her name was Carrie or something like that. And literally, I thought Tomi Lahren was this retired beauty queen that had been shamed, and she had just somehow got a job in the conservative media complex, and it wouldn't be too far from the truth. I mean, Gretchen Carlson was like a Miss USA or something along those lines. There are a lot of them that are ex-models, most of the conservative media complex is composed of sort of very vapid commentators, ex-talking heads, ex-presenters on entertainment programs, and so forth. So Tomi Lahren has some background in politics in terms of policy and campaigning and stuff, but I wouldn't say that she's a particularly, well-researched source. She's on Glenn Beck's weird-ass flailing, going down in flames Blaze Network, and she sits there and she spouts off some beauty queen shit about black people, get your shit together, women, get your shit together. She goes down the list of the victim, the crybaby victim list of the right wing, and screams at them for an hour. And then what happened is, all of a sudden, her white-splaining to Colin Kaepernick about how he should politely protest the injustice of daily police shootings of mostly unarmed victims. I mean, even if the police are shooting or killing a suspect who is not armed and doesn't pose a mortal threat. No, there are no perfect victims when people have this discussion about police brutality and police shootings. Even if you committed a crime, because that's the number one right-wing response to Black Lives Matter and Kaepernick and any sort of idea of, I don't understand why it's so perverse, this idea of you should survive your arrest. Even if you broke any laws or anything like that, like because you're black shouldn't mean that you're not going to survive the arrest. You shouldn't be executed, judged, and executed before you even get in the back of the police car. Or executed in the back of the police car because the police car is smashing you around the walls. Or executed in the police station while you're waiting to get processed. Or executed in the jail cell while you're waiting to get to a trial. On and on. It seems that if you're black in America, you can't make it through the judicial process without being executed at some point, just either through incompetence or through complete disregard. So that's where Colin Kaepernick and the Black Lives Matter movement is coming from, and Tomi Lahren is offended by that. So she's another like loudmouth female commentator, another angry ass white woman. It's fascinating how angry black women are so very controversial, and angry black men. This idea that I remember there was a lot of talk in the right wing. There was a lot of characterization particularly during Barack Obama's first term. Specifically, there was a lot of character assassination associated with somehow creating an image of Michelle Obama as the angry black woman. But in America, white people are always justifiably angry. They're never too sensitive. They're always entitled to get their feelings hurt when anyone challenges them. So you aren't supposed to talk about white privilege. You know what I mean? It's kind of this very old school family secret thing of, look, just take what you got. Be happy with what America has given you. Be thankful that we don't use you as slaves anymore. Be thankful we don't kill more of you. Be thankful that you got lucky and you made it through the day today. That's the central talking point of this Tomi Lahren is, why aren't you grateful for what you have? Why aren't you grateful, Colin Kaepernick, for being one of the lucky ones? You're not one of these criminal blacks that get shot down in the street. You're a millionaire. You should be thanking America. You should be bowing down and kissing our shoes and, eating shit off of our heels. That's the sentiment of Tomi Lahren generally when she's talking about imperfect victimhood. This idea that the victims of victimhood, white people are the victims of other people's victimhoods. Why do I have to hear it? That's their big complaint. That's her outrage. That's what fuels those Sarah Palin rambling Facebook posts and these Ann Coulter books. Is why do you guys have to say something? Can't you just lay down and take it? It's very rapey. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, I'm going to take what I want. Why do you have to scream about it? So yeah, they got women that'll vilify women who want some measure of equality or fairness for women. They have black commentators that are paid to vilify any black people that should voice the injustices visited upon people in this country for the color of their skin, particularly black people in the wake of many years of social segregation and exploitation and humiliation. God forbid someone should go, kind of not feeling it. That's verboten. We've even got a wave with this alt-right. The alt-right is in the wake of gay marriage being legalized. The most interesting thing about the alt-right to me is Milo. Milo Yiannopoulos is a gay man who lets people call him faggot. You know, Steven Crowder can walk around the stage and something that would have outraged the community 20 years ago during the Bush administration. If Steven Crowder, if Sean Hannity had called somebody faggot during the Bush administration, even conservative homosexuals would have hit the roof. But the alt-right, what made it, one of the things that made it alt was that sexuality was a non-factor. And there's a perverse progressivity within a faction of the alt-right movement, this sort of Blair White, I'm a tranny who loves to be called tranny, Milo, I'm a gay guy who doesn't care if you say faggot, that guy T and all those other knuckleheads, some black guy. These are U2 specific people, but they are kind of these, these, I'm not offended. Say whatever you want, white man. You say whatever you want. You just put the money on the counter. You say whatever you want, and I'll say it's fine. It's fine to say faggot. It's fine to call black people niggers. Well, I don't know why those black people are so offended by that, because I'm not offended by it. I don't know why they're not offended by it. It's just a word. I was having a conversation with Maria Watanabe on Twitter, and there was some kind of static between her and TJ Kirk, and TJ Kirk just swung in and called me a faggot. Now, as a homosexual, I got offended, and I got this whole army of TJ trolls show up and tell me that faggot is just a word. Well, if you haven't lived under the tyranny of that word and what it means in terms of shaming people, ostracizing people, humiliating people, dehumanizing and unpersoning people, you don't give a shit about the word faggot. Look, you can say whatever you want. It's legal for you to say something offensive or cruel, but the most frustrating part of this anti-SJW shit is you're not supposed to be offended. You're not allowed to be offended. That's the whole anti-SJW movement, is that, I don't understand why I can't say nigger to black people. Why are black people angry about that? You guys aren't cool. You guys aren't the cool black people that let me say whatever I want. And it's not particularly new. It's not particularly new, this whole idea of there always being a few outliers, but they're not typical of anything. Maybe hoteps. I'm going to do a video later about hoteps. Hoteps are a whole other wild-ass thing. Hoteps are like these really militant, misogynist, mostly black men, but some black women, that support Donald Trump, and they're deeply, deeply conservative. Really wild, tribalist stuff. I'm going to touch on hoteps later. But today, I was touching on tokens who side with the oppressor and apologists for the right wing. Those are the two most, in my opinion, grotesque components of the right-wing media machine, and that includes the conservatives and quasi-conservatives on this website. I don't need to hear Blair White talk about how it's cool to look. Let me try to be reasonable here. If Milo Yiannopoulos wants people to call him faggot, fine. But he shouldn't then tell other people, oh, well, I'm cool with this. You should go shame or call out other people who are not cool enough to not care about this word. The same thing with Blair White. If you want to be called a tranny and you're cool with it, fine. But then don't hold yourself up as an exemplar of what the community should accept. And if you're a black person who doesn't give a fuck about the word nigger, and if you're a Spanish person who doesn't give a fuck about the word spick, speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. Because I have a goddamn name.